Hey, Dr. John here with LifeSpa Ayurveda. Today I want to talk about Nadi Shodhana, alternate nostril breathing, perhaps one of the most important Ayurvedic pranayama breathing techniques. And I want to talk about the science and the ancient wisdom behind this really quite amazing breathing technique. You know, when we live life and we get stressed, either from a young child getting stressed out dealing with their family situation or going through young adult or adulthood where you get stressed out, every little tiny stress changes how you breathe. It makes you breathe a little bit more shallow, triggering a slight fight or flight emergency response. The problem with it, those stressors are cumulative and they slowly but surely and chronically change how we breathe to be an upper chest shallow breather. And when we shallow breathe, we lose access to the lower lobes of the lungs where the calm receptors, the parasympathetic receptors that help you digest your food and rebuild and rejuvenate receptors live. And we start breathing shallow in the upper chest where the upper chest receptors are fight or flight, telling your body, yes, life's an emergency. There's a bear chasing you, get up a tree, save your life, that kind of a thing. And what happens as we slowly but surely become more shallow breathers, what happens is we do something called over-breathing, and that's where we breathe in more oxygen than we can actually take in. One study showed that 75% of the people, oxygen that people breathe in get breathed out unused. So 75% of the oxygen we're breathing in, we breathe out unused, not even using what we're breathing in, so we blow off all this oxygen that we are not using. But as we do that, we also blow off carbon dioxide. And what happens is in that situation is oxygen levels go high, you're 98% saturation in your blood, but your carbon dioxide levels become low. And that's a recipe for some not great things. That causes levels of anxiety. That's why when people have anxiety, they put a paper bag over their mouth, they rebreathe carbon dioxide, and their anxiety comes down. What happens is when carbon dioxide levels rise, that actually calms you down and lowers your anxiety. So when we shallow breathe, we become more chronically anxious and chronically depressed and chronically stressed, and that's a real problem. And the more the oxygen levels stay high and the CO2 levels stay low, the bond between the oxygen in your blood and the hemoglobin in your blood becomes very tight. It's called the Bohr effect, and the tighter that bond, the less oxygenation you have of your tissues. So then your body starts to age faster, degenerate faster, and that becomes another problem. But as you begin to do breath, lengthening of your breath techniques and holding your breath techniques, what happens is the CO2 levels start to rise, and the tolerance to be able to handle carbon dioxide levels at a little bit of a higher level starts to increase, and you build up what's called CO2 tolerance, where you become able to stay calm for longer periods of time. Now, learning how to breathe and bring your body back into balance is a really critical piece of the puzzle, and Ayurvedic pranayama techniques were really the first part of yoga. And before yoga postures and asana, it was all about breathing, because breathing will raise your vibration. It'll access all 5 lobes of your lungs and help your body stay calm in the midst of stress, where you become the eye of the storm, where you become able to handle stress like water off a duck's back, where the winds are spinning around your silent center. That's what that's about. Studies have shown that breathing techniques like Nadi Shodhana have been able to increase neuroplasticity. They're neuroprotective. They protect your brain. They help create a level of self-awareness where you can be able to perceive old patterns of behavior that were caused by stress that are allowing us or making us do things that don't serve us any longer, and free us from those old underlying patterns of behavior. So the research on some of these breathing techniques is quite phenomenal. Now, Nadi Shodhana, alternate nostril breathing, is really, really important. And what they found is that when you breathe, when they did the studies, and when I wrote the article about this at lifespa.com, you can go to the website, my website, read about the science behind this, which I think is really quite amazing. And while you're there, you can sign up for our newsletter, check out our Ayurvedic store for all our organic Ayurvedic herbs, and check all that out. But the research on Nadi Shodhana, when I did this, I looked at the research on just doing unilateral nose breathing versus alternating your nose breathing. So in Nadi Shodhana, you would breathe in through one side, out the other, in through the same side, and out the other. So it's alternating your breathing pattern. I'm going to demonstrate that in just a little bit, but I want to dive into the science and the ancient wisdom first. But when you actually look at what happens when you breathe in just through your left side, so if you breathe in through the left and out through the right, and in through the left and out through the right, and in through the left and out through the right, that's called Chandrabedna, where you're breathing in through the left side and out through the right side. So you're breathing in air through that left nostril. And that's been shown to increase parasympathetic activation. Calms you down, cools you off. It supports the neurological level of sedation. So it kind of calms the nervous system. Or the opposite of that, if you looked at the research of just breathing only through your nose, called Suryabedna, which means the sun breath, you breathe in through the right and out through the left, and in through the right and out to the left. That's been shown to actually heat the body up and activate stimulation and sympathetic activation, fight or flight activation. So what's kind of neat about these two breathing, these two pathways, is that you have Chandrabedna on the left side, which activates a subtle energy pathway called Ida. And on the right side, you have Suryabedna, which stimulates you, which activates a nadi on the right side of your spine called Pingala. So Ida on the left side of your spine and Pingala on the right side of your spine. Pingala for sympathetic activation, Ida for parasympathetic activation. Inside the spine is another nadi, a subtle energy pathway that carries your Kundalini Shakti awareness and prana life force, called Sushumna. So these two pathways on the side, Ida and Pingala, are sort of the two pathways, and in the middle is the junction point between the two, the gap between these two pathways. And what happens when the studies show when you do alternate nostril breathing, you harmonize and bring the balance back between the sympathetic and parasympathetic nervous system. So instead of when you're under stress, sympathetic goes up and parasympathetic goes to zero, the actual two start to coexist. And when you have coexistence of the opposite nervous systems, you have a Vedic principle, which is that we can be dynamically active, engaged in all this activity, sort of in the winds of the storm, but yet composed and calm at the same time, which is really cool. We actually replicated that in my early research we published back in the 1990s when we did nose breathing versus mouth breathing exercise, and found that when people would nose breathe, that's exactly what happened. Their sympathetic and parasympathetic systems balanced. And that was nose breathing during activity. Well, Nadi Shodhana does exactly the same thing. It harmonizes those two systems and therefore allows the body on a more subtle level to feel safe enough to let that subtle energy, your Kundalini Shakti, your consciousness, rise through the central pathway, your Sushumna, and that's what increases spiritual process. And that's what raises our vibration and raises our consciousness, which is a beautiful understanding of how Nadi Shodhana works, which is why it's one of the most popular and the most taught breathing techniques, is because of this ability to do so much on the subtle. It does a lot on the not subtle, on our physical body as well, I'll talk about in a minute, which is, I think, just as important. But also it's important to understand that what's happening here is when you do Nadi Shodhana, alternate nostril breathing, you're also, let's start with yoga postures. When you do yoga postures, you're actually, the prana, the life force, is being driven into the density of the physical body. That prana from yoga activates the very subtle nadi systems in the body. And those nadi systems are stimulated by pranayama. And that pranayama activates the nadis and creates a level of wakefulness in the physiology. Those nadis are taken into what's called the mind, or what's called the manomaya kosha. And that is where the chakras live. So the yoga activates the prana, which drives the prana into the physical body, which activates the nadis activate the chakras. The chakras wake us up on the level of self-awareness in the mind, in the manomaya kosha, where the mind can then be more self-aware of the truth versus the non-truth. So we become more aware of patterns of behavior that are based on needing approval and satisfaction and love and support from the outside, versus realizing that all that satisfaction is waiting for us from the inside out. That's really the goal of Ayurveda. Ayu is life, Veda is truth. So the definition of Ayurveda is letting the truth of your life out. So that's only going to happen when you go within. So all these techniques are designed to create a subtle level of heightened awareness so you can see what patterns of behavior have locked you into and addicted you to being addicted or only satisfied from the outside world, and start to give you access to something more real from the inside out. That's the beauty of pranayama. That's the beauty of Nadi Shodhana. Now, the research on Nadi Shodhana has been done and shows that it increases cognitive function. It increases respiratory function. In fact, it increased oxygen consumption by 18% in one study, increased VO2 max, lowered your blood pressure, lowered blood sugar, neuroprotective, decreased cellular aging, and activated liver detoxifying enzymes, antioxidant enzymes called glutathione superoxide dismutase and catalase. So like, wow, lots of research on this from the physical point, but on the subtle point, I wanted to bring that into the equation too, because it's really about raising our vibration, thinning the veil between the physical and the spiritual, and raising our consciousness. That's what these pranayama breathing techniques are truly about. But the body gets the side benefit of healing at a very deep level when you take the stress away, which is really beautiful. Okay, so when you do this breathing technique, many techniques about how to do pranayama. The one that I like is take your hands, take your index finger and your middle finger and bring them to your palm. And then you open and close your nostril with your ring finger and your thumb. So it's in like that and in like this, just like this, in and out like that. Now, so we're going to breathe in through the left side and then out through the right side, in through the right side and out through the right side. And what I like to do is do a 2, 4, or 8 count. So a 2 count would be 1, 2 on the in, 1, 2, hold, 1, 2 on the out, 1, 2, hold, 1, 2 on the in, 1, 2, hold, 1, 2 on the out, 1, 2, hold. So it's inhale, inhale, hold, exhale, exhale, hold. So that's how you do it. And you have to create a rhythm that's comfortable for you. Could it be a 2 count or a 4 count or an 8 count? If it's an 8 count, you know, that's a very long breath. That's about a 32-second, almost 2 breaths per minute. That's a very, very slow breath. Lots of folks can't do that. So it's really, truly about your comfort level and finding that comfortable rhythm that works just for you. Slowing your breathing down is the goal, because when you slow your breathing down, carbon dioxide levels will begin to rise and you'll build CO2 tolerance. And when you build CO2 tolerance, that's what calms you down. And that disarming of your fight or flight nervous system allows us to kind of disarm that nervous system. And like I said, allow the subtle energy to go through the Sushumna, allow the Ida and Pingala to balance and harmonize. And that allows the body to feel safe to let the subtle energy move through the central channel. So that's what we're looking for. So you can't strain when you do this. You have to find that rhythm. So if it's a 2 count for you today, it might be a 4 count for you next week. It might be an 8 count for you in a month or 2. But just find your rhythm and be fine with that. So it would look something like this, and we can sort of do it together. So you take your right hand like this and breathing in. We'll start with the right nostril in. Inhale, 1, 2, 3, 4. Hold, 1, 2, 3, 4. Exhale, 1, 2, 3, 4. Hold, 1, 2, 3, 4. Inhale through the left, 1, 2, 3, 4. Hold, 1, 2, 3, 4. Exhale right, 2, 3, 4. Hold, exhale, 1, 2, 3, 4. Inhale right, 1, 2, 3, 4. Hold, 1, 2, 3, 4. Exhale left, 1, 2, 3, 4. Hold, 1, 2, 3, 4. Inhale, 1, 2, 3, 4. Hold, 1, 2, 3, 4. Exhale right, 1, 2, 3, 4. And while we can continue just on your own for a couple of minutes, we'll do it together. Here we go. Close your eyes. And out. Hold. 1, 2, 3, 4. Inhale left. Hold. 1, 2, 3, 4. Exhale right. 1, 2, 3, 4. Hold. And then you continue like that. In the right, out the left, in the left, out the right. Very simple breathing technique. Please check out the article at lifespa.com with all the articles about Nadi Shodhana, a really amazing breathing technique, pranayama technique that has amazing physiological benefit, but on the subtle level, it's a really powerful preparation for a spiritual process. Thanks for listening. I'm Dr. John Douillard. Do you like this video? Don't forget to subscribe and share.
This recording is brought to you by LifeSpa, where ancient Ayurvedic wisdom meets modern science. Get access to free health video newsletters by Dr. John at lifespa.com. These statements have not been evaluated by the FDA. These products are not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent any disease.